Plates ready? This is Food School, Smarter, Stronger, Leaner podcast. Want to feel amazing, love the way you look in the mirror, and perform your absolute best in the gym, at work, and in life? You're definitely in the right place. Food. It's you. It builds every single cell of you. And if there is one thing every human being must master, it's food. Because at the very least, eating, you do it every day, several times a day, every single day. You might as well get good at it. I'm your host, Shurina from Create Yourself That Today, your personal nutritionist and plate watcher, your diet guide and explorer, your fat loss coach and food inspector. And just someone with a lot of passion and obsession and curiosity for healthy food, healthy diets, nutrition, optimized human performance, everything and absolutely anything you put in your grocery shopping cart, your fridge, on your plate, and in your mouth. It's my business. Food School, on a mission to help you eat better daily.
It's the last time I talk about food. It's the last time I talk about food.
Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Food School Smarter, Stronger, Leaner podcast. Are you getting smarter, stronger, leaner already? I hope yes. But most importantly, no matter what you learn here, guys, unless you do something about it, you're not gonna get smarter, stronger, or leaner. Knowledge is not power. Knowledge is just potential power. And you get to activate that potential power by acting upon it. So take massive actions, and even the smallest knowledge that you take action upon will bring you amazing results. Today, we will continue our conversation about genetics and genetic testing. And today we will talk about exercise and athletic performance and what genetic testing can do for you. Well, guys, especially if you are not planning to become an Olympic level athlete, genetic testing will probably not tell you a lot about your potential. No matter what kind of sports you do as non-professional athlete, you can develop, you can get better. Again, no matter what you want to do, no matter where you start, no matter what prior exercise experience you have, no matter what genes you have, you can improve in almost any sport. And if you want to look more like a bodybuilder, then obviously you should start training some muscles with some weights. If you want to look more like a CrossFitter and you want to be able to do all these different kinds of strengths and endurance and speed movements, then you probably should do some CrossFit. If you want to look more like a dancer or yoga teacher, then you should probably do more yoga and ballet and dancing. All sports make you into a particular type of athlete. It's not a coincidence, guys, that people who do a lot of long distance running compared to sprinters who do a lot of short distance running, they look completely different. Sprinters being muscular, being bigger, being more robust, more thicker looking, whereas endurance athletes and people who run a lot professionally, they usually are pretty thin, pretty lean, and always look smaller and lighter, because it just for the body it is easier to run a long distance when you have less weight and less muscles and you don't have to use as much fuel or as much oxygen. So if you want to have a particular kind of physique, that is particular physique for certain kind of sports or athletic performance, then do more of that sport. There is no, again, unless you want to become a professional athlete, and that decision probably should have been made a long time ago, or if you want to become, an Olympic level athlete, that too probably should have happened early in your life. And not so much because of genetics, guys, but mostly because when we are kids, when we are children, that's when our genes get the most powerful powerful signal to develop certain way. What do I mean by that? For example, if you were a kid and let's say you're 5, 6 years old, even earlier, very often for professional athletes, for example, Maria Sharapova started training, I believe, when she was 5 or 6. Mozart also started playing piano. I don't know. I think it's was 4 or 5. And the thing is, when you're so young, your genes have the most potential to develop a certain way under the influence of certain environment and certain practices. So it's not that Mozart had a lot of talent, necessarily genetic talent, or it's not that Maria Sharapova had a lot of genetic talent to become one of the best tennis players. It just since very early age in their life, they were dedicating, usually because of their parents and their environment, a lot of times to practicing this particular sport or this particular, in the case of Mozart, this particular thing. And that's why their genetics, their abilities, all their being developed in a certain way that is best suited for that particular sport, for example, tennis. And if you don't know, for example, autobiography of Maria Sharapova, as a kid, she was pretty small and not really tennis player. She didn't really have that tennis player kind of physique. But as she played more and more tennis, and as she imagined herself growing and becoming taller to be able to run faster, to be able to reach that ball better, who knows because of what, but she grew, and she's pretty tall girl. I met her once in New York City and got to stand on the side, and yeah, she's tall, but as a kid she wasn't that tall. Maybe her sport, her determination, her vision for herself helped her genes to develop that way. But again, most importantly, Olympic level athletes, professional athletes, usually they start playing and practicing sport, at least some kind of sport, not necessarily the same kind of sport that they get proficient at, but some sort of athletics early in the childhood. Because when we are young, our body has the potential to develop abilities to withstand a lot of training, a lot of workout load, and to recover faster, to develop better joints, better connective tissue, to develop better ability to recover and to restore that collagen and other tissues. And if you didn't train when you were young, you probably, and you start training when you were 30 or even in your 20s, you're not going to have the same potential as someone who started training when they were really young. For example, I started training really young. My father used to teach physical training at school. Now he started that again, and then he used to work with athletes and was I forgot, but with people in the military. So, and he started training me, not hardcore training, but I was exercising almost every single day. And that's why I believe right now I am so much better at recovering and running and doing all kinds of training and just being better in general with recovery and not having a lot of injuries. The only serious injuries I had in my life were when I had a motorbike accident and I broke my shoulder blade and 6 ribs and I couldn't walk and I couldn't even, I couldn't even think about running. When I was trying to do a few squats right after I was able to walk, I couldn't even breathe normally. I was out of breath really fast. Now I'm starting running again. I used to be a long distance runner. I trained myself to run long distance because when I was young, I was more of a sprinter. But long story short, because I started training so young, now my body is used to a lot of workout loads, a lot of training, and I recover much faster with almost no injuries or no influence on my mental performance and performance in other areas of my life. Whereas if you compare someone who started training in the gym or doing, whatever in their 30s, it's not ever going to be the same. And it has, it doesn't have a lot to do with the genetics that you got when you were born, but with the lifestyle you had as a kid. And that's why it seems that, a lot of professional athletes, they just inhumanly different from all of us. But again, it's not because they had certain genes, it's because the environment shaped their genetic material in the way so they can perform the way we see them performing at top world-class level. And of course, for example, if you want to become a world-class NBA basketball player and you're not super huge and tall, probably not going to happen for you. And that's genetic. But also, who knows, maybe because they start training that early, maybe they had in mind that picture that I want to grow stronger and taller, and their genes were expressed in that way, so they got so tall. We don't really know. And we know now more than 200 genes that affect our athletic performance and our recovery in one way or the other. We might have predisposition to develop more certain muscle tissue type that is common among strength athlete or endurance athletes. We might have certain capacity, a certain VO2 max capacity, basically the capacity for our body to use a certain amount of oxygen per unit of time, and scientists think that 40-50% of our ability to use certain amount of oxygen when we train, and oxygen is crucial to our athletic performance. So scientists argue that 40-50% of it's genetic, but again, they are not really sure what combination of genes creates the perfect outcome when it comes to VO2 max or maximum oxygen uptake. And we also might have different capacity based on the mitochondria that we get from our moms in our genetic lines. We might have, again, different capacity to restore our collagen tissue in our joints and in our connective tissue, and so many other things might be affected on genetic level and give us certain potential to be better or not so good at certain sports. But again, the science is too young to tell you exactly how it's all gonna play out. So unless you're a professional athlete and you have money to spend and you are interested even in, 100% of improvement in your athletic performance, unless any of that is true and you can really spend money on some sophisticated genetic analysis, I would not spend any money on trying to figure out what athletic performance potential you have on a genetic level, because it's not going to tell you much. And from the data, for example, that they gathered in precision nutrition, where I studied fitness and sports nutrition, they say that the correlation between the best genetic makeup of people who, for example, are better designed, quote unquote, for endurance training or running, and people who are better designed for sprints, well, the correlation of those people who actually succeed at that sport and love that sport is not that huge. It's like 50-50. And you can be a great endurance marathon runner having the genes of a sprinter if you started training as a marathon runner and you spend quite a lot of time doing that. So the most important thing is still training, and genetic potential is not as important as your training when you were a kid. And also genetic potential, nobody really knows how that genetic potential exactly influences your capacity to become certain kind of athlete. And also, guys, there is no such thing as golfer gene or tennis player gene or basketball player gene. It's just sport is a complex skill. There are different rules, there are different skills and modalities that you need to develop as an athlete to become great at certain sport. And only when they all come together to the best of their potential, only then you can become number one and you can become world-class athlete, Olympic level athlete. And that it's a gamble. You never know, and nobody knows, and no genetic test can tell you who you're gonna be or what you're gonna even like or what you're gonna be better at. So don't waste your money on that just yet, in the future, when we know more about our genes and how they interact with environment and what kind of genes and genes combinations can give us certain better abilities at certain sports, then it might make sense to, for example, do genetic testing of your kid when they're youngest and start training there in several kinds of sports that are more genetically better for that particular gene combination. But as for right now, it's really a waste of money and time. And unless you're curious and just want to see what our genetic testing has to tell you about your ability to become a better athlete, a certain kind of athlete. But then you also want to do the research on that particular genetic testing company, because different companies do different testing, and they do not all test for the same things, and they do not do the analysis for the same things. So one company may focus indeed more on sports and athletic performance when it comes to genetic testings, and one company can focus on something else. So what I want you also to understand is companies who do genetic testing, they do not do the same kind of genetic testing. So it's not like blood work that you go to a certain lab and you tell them, I need my, fasting blood glucose or my extended blood lipid panel, and the lab will know what to do. When it comes to genetic testing, it's like basically every company decides what that company wants to do, and they do certain testing, certain analysis, and provide you certain data with certain insights and analysis and maybe actionable steps. So each company is different. Do research, and most importantly, read feedback of other people, and that's how you know what's this particular company's genetic testing is best for. So that's it for today, guys. Exercise, athletic performance, and genetic testing. Again, what matters more than what genes you have is what sports you did as you were a kid, how active athletically you were as a kid, and what kind of sports you enjoyed doing and you've been doing for longer periods of time, and what kind of physique and health you want to have as an athlete. Maybe there's a recreational athlete or a professional athlete. That all matters much more than your genetics. Again, I want to emphasize that thought that genetics, it's like a blueprint. It's like a plan of your body, and your body chooses, quote unquote, to develop, not because of the plan you have, but because of your actions that you take of the environment that you exist and environment that influences the genetic expression of your genes. And that's why we humans are so different, because of differences in our lifestyle, in our environment, in what we do when we are kids, and what we do most of our life. And that's what matters more than what particular genes we have. That's it for today, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Tomorrow, we will talk about sleep with a sleep scientist who helps with artificial intelligence, with sounds and other environmental modalities to help people to sleep better. Or we will talk about cannabis-infused drinks and other products that are on the market already, designed to make you feel better, at peace, and more chilled, literally. So stay tuned. It's going to be interesting. And as usual, till next time, eat better daily.